Hey y'all, so today I want to talk to you about how to read Vigil Lights. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to talk to you about how I read Vigil Lights because while there are general guidelines, each practitioner um, has their own way of reading signs from candle burning and interpreting that information. Um, Now, before I go any further, I want to say if you haven't already watched my previous video called Bullet Journaling for Hoodoo, I want you to pause this video, go look at that one, and then come back and finish this one, okay? Um, so what I want to start out by saying is in that video, I showed you how you can set up a bullet journal for recording all the information that you're going to need to make your notations of your observations as your candle burn, and then ultimately write your bullet journal, write your candle burn report, and then you'll need this information to record how the situation played out for you, whether your candle was a success or failure. Now, I probably should have put this information in that video, but I'm going to pick right up and say the first thing I want to talk to you about is, first of all, this is a Vigil light. This is what it looks like when you first get it. Sometimes the commercial ones will have its own label on it telling you what the candle's for. And in other cases, you can make your own, like I've done here. This is what I call a Kiss Me Now Vigil light, and it shows two men kissing, and I did this by cutting out letters from the newspaper, and then the image I got from the newspaper as well. It was in the New York Times in the art section, and I thought that would be a great image to convey the goal of the candle. So that's a really important thing right there. You want to know what the candle was for, because all the signs that you interpret or notate, they're going to be interpreted in relation to what the candle was for or the purpose of the candle. Now, I regard the burning of a candle like a journey, and your candle is actually like a journal or a map, and it tells you, you start here and hopefully you end down here when the candles burn, and this candle will be a record of how you got from here to here with the marks that leaves on the glass, how it burned, and whatnot. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the candle flame itself. When you first light the candle, I regard the candle flame as being the spirit of the work being done. And so every day, once you light your candle, you're going to go and observe this candle each day. Now, as a professional worker, I often had several candles going at once. You may have several candles, you may have just this one, but that's where your bullet journal is going to come in. So every morning when I got up, I usually did mine in the morning, I would go over, look at the candle, and make sure none of them had went out and need to be relit. If they did, I'd relight them. I would note that in the journal, and I would. Another thing I would look at throughout the day, not just in the morning, is I would look at the candle flame, because a normal flame is just a normal flame. That's your baseline. But let's say your flame is low. So when your flame is burning low, what that means to me is there's low energy. Your candle is weak. The spirit of your candle is weak. It needs more energy. It needs to be strengthened through your prayers. And one thing I've noticed too, sometimes the wick will burn down, and what will happen is the flame will be just hot enough to melt the wax, but not hot enough for it to burn away. And so what happens is the melted wax builds up to the point where it can almost drown your flame out. And so what I do in these instances is there's a verse in the Bible that goes, it's used for stopping blood, and it goes, when I passed thee by and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto thee, live. Yea, when thou wast in thy blood, I said, live. Now, what I did in these cases, when the wax was threatening to drown the candle, I would just exchange the word blood for wax, and I would pray over the candle. When I passed thee by and saw thee drowning in thine own wax, I said unto thee, live. Yea, when thou wast in thy wax, I said, live. And I would pray that verse over that candle, and many, many times that candle would grow, that flame would grow stronger to the point where it would start to make the melted wax evaporate. Sort of like when you boil water, the water turns to steam and evaporates. So that's a low flame. Now, when your flame is high and strong, that means that the spirit of the work is very strong and it's working for you. That's a very good sign. When your flame is jumping up and down, I regard that as like a cheerleader. I'm jumping up and down. I'm excited. I'm working for you. I feel good about the work. The candle feels good about the work. It's just cheering you on. But it also might mean, just like a cheerleader in a football game, a cheerleader is there to rev up the energy of the crowd. So when your candle is jumping up and down, it wants your attention. It wants you to come over and cheer it on and be a part of the process. Another common thing that will happen is you will hear little, I can't do it, popping sounds. And my understanding is those little popping sounds are like tiny explosions. So your candle is actually breaking through obstacles for you. And a lot of times it may be the tiny little explosions are usually obstacles you may not be aware of. They may be subconscious. They're not great, big, obvious ones, but smaller ones. So that's what you're going to do. Every day you're going to look at your candle and you're going to make note of the flame, make sure it hasn't burned out. If it burns out, I'm going to get into that further down. So at this point, we're going to jump to the point where your candle has burned out. We're going to read the candle. So when I go to read the candle, and remember, it's important that you know what the purpose of the candle was in order for you to read it. So, and also we say reading the signs because it's important to understand that signs from candle burning is plural. There's not just one sign that you build up a report around. There are actually several things you look at when you read a candle, and you blend all these things together in order to understand the meaning of how it burned and what results can you expect from the candle. So all these things I'm going to tell you, you have to, balance them against each other. So while you may have 3 very bad signs, you may have 1 good sign, or you may have several good signs and 1 little bad sign. You have to kind of balance them out and figure out what it means. So one sign in and of itself doesn't define how the whole thing is going to go. Now, once your candle has burned down, the first thing I make note of is how many days did it burn. And remember, on that candle burn report I showed y'all, that's one thing I wrote down, is the date we started it and the date it ended, so that we would know how many days it burned. Now, for example, this one here, now this is just a sample candle. I didn't actually put any mojo into it. It's just a candle I happen to have sitting on hand, and was going to burn for another reason for someone else. They never did pay, and it's just been sitting here. So I burnt this one as an example to read it for the purpose of this video. But anyway, I lit this candle last Friday. Today is Wednesday, and I did stay up late Tuesday night. It was still burning when I went to bed Tuesday night, but when I woke up Wednesday morning, it had burned out. So it had to have burned out sometime between 11 p.m. Tuesday night and 6 a.m. when I woke up Wednesday morning. So I'm gonna say it burned out probably sometime just after midnight, which would make this 5 days, because from Friday to Wednesday is 5 days. Now, that's a good sign, because all these candles that I buy, I have a bunch of these. I still have a bunch of these, and I know that for me, this candle here, the average burn is 5 days. So that's a good sign that it burned 5 days. Now, if it burned 1 to 3 days, that's less than average. And what that usually means to me is that you'll probably get your wish, but it won't last. If it burned 6 to 8 days, what that means to me is more than likely you won't get your wish, but if you do, it's going to take a lot of effort. You're probably going to have to burn more candles or do some other form of magic in order to get your wish. Okay. So the next thing I look at is the overall condition of the candle. So first thing is how much candle wax was left behind. Now look at this. Now, I know for me this is normal. For this candle that I've been purchasing, this amount of wax is normal. Now, had it burned out, up here, or up here, or higher, that would mean probably blockages. If your candle did not burn down completely, you have to ask yourself, am I going to relight this candle, or should I give up? And again, you take your other signs into consideration. Me personally, I will relight a candle up to 3 times. After that, I won't relight it anymore. That doesn't mean that I give up on the goal. What that means is maybe this candle was a dud. Maybe there's a mundane reason behind it. Maybe there's a spiritual reason behind it. So maybe I'll make another candle. Or maybe candle magic was not the way that this problem or issue needed to be addressed. Maybe instead of a candle, I'll do a spiritual bath. Maybe I'll do a mojo bag. Maybe I'll do a freestanding candle spell. Maybe I will work with a doll baby. So there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. And if you are skilled in a form of divination such as the tarot, Lenormand, anything like that, you can do a divination to kind of help you figure out what went wrong and how you could possibly address this situation. But again, I will not light this candle more than 3 times. So the next thing you want to look at is did the glass burn clean or dirty? So if you look right here, this candle burned down clean. That's a really good sign, right? That means it's a clean burn means a clear path from top to bottom. Oops, from top to bottom. That's a clear path, no obstacles in your way. Now, if the candle had burned partly clean and partly dirty, you have to see where those parts are. For example, if it burnt clean towards the top and dirty at the bottom, what that means is your candle started out, there was no opposition, it had a cleared path, but then where it started burning black or dark, that's where it ran into obstacles. And if the candle burned out at that point, the obstacle, whether it's your own doubts and fears, whether it's a spirit, whether it's an enemy, they overcame the power of the candle. The candle wasn't able to continue. Now, if the candle, if it didn't burn out and it turned black, that just means the obstacles were in the way, and that's not a good sign. Something is working against you. Again, it could be a spirit, it could be an enemy, or it could be your own, a manifestation of your own doubts, fears about the work being done. Now, if it burned black or dark towards the top and then got clear, what that means is you started out your journey, you ran into an obstacle, but your candle was able to overcome that obstacle and burn clear and open the path for you to get what it is that you want. And then again, you might want to look at, if it did burn clean and dirty, how much of it, like maybe this much of it burnt clean and that much of it burnt dirty. Or maybe it's the opposite. You have to maybe think about how much of it, burnt clean and how much of it burnt dirty, and figure out what that might mean. The more dirty it burned, maybe the greater the obstacle that was working against you. The next thing you want to look at too is you want to inspect the glass. I usually kind of hold this up to the light and turn it over. Now, one thing that's going to really jump out at you is, and I don't have one to show you, but it's what I call scorch marks. And what happens is sometimes as you're burning a candle, you see how this wick is in the center? What happens is the wax around that wick gets loose, almost like a swamp or a lake. And what can sometimes happen is, as that wax gets loose and it's burning, that wick will move towards the center towards the glass, and sometimes the flame will get right up on that glass, and what happens is you'll get a burn mark or a scorch mark on the glass. Now there are some people who think that once you light the candle, you should not mess with it. I am of the school that, you know, I'm gonna mess with the candle. I want this to work as best as I can. So if that wick moves towards the glass, what I do is I'll take like a chopstick and I'll stick it down in the candle and try and move that wick back toward the center so it doesn't keep doing that scorch mark on the glass. And what was I gonna say? Going back to the scorch mark is, now when you see the scorch mark, sometimes it'll make a shape or a symbol, and I've noticed that a lot of times when it's a scorch mark, you might, excuse me, you might see a face, you might see, and it might not be a handsome face or a good looking face. It looks maybe even demonic or dark, or you may see some kind of animal that's really scary looking. Now what that could mean is, it could mean that that's a spirit or an evil entity working against you for whatever reason. But that, honestly believe that's an extreme interpretation. Um, it's not always a bad spirit. It could represent your enemy. If you have an enemy working against you, if you look at it, it can literally look like your enemy. You may see your enemy's face if they're putting their mark on your candle, saying, "I'm working against you," or if it looks very scary and demonic looking, or like a really scary animal, that can represent your enemy's sort of shadow shelf, a projection of their evil, symbolic. And then the last thing it could be, and a lot of people don't like to hear that, it could be your own shadow self. It could be a manifestation of your own doubts and fears about the work. So you have to kind of think for yourself, what feels right here? Is this a spirit? Is this a enemy, or is this my own fears being projected onto the candle? So the next thing I look at is, again, I'm holding it up to the light and I'm turning it over. I'm looking for marks in the glass. Now what happens is sometimes you'll see, when you put herbs in the candle, sometimes those herbs, even though the candle burns down, it'll stick to the glass and it may form an image, and you can use, you can divine that image. Like, what do you think it means? And sometimes the wax itself will make a mark. Like here I see something, but it doesn't really look like anything to me. It almost looks like a thumbprint or a feather. So I think, okay, what would a feather mean in relation to the goal of this Kiss Me Now candle? And, for someone looking to have a good time. Well, a feather could be, again, this burned down clear and nice. So a feather can be an angelic spirit working on your own side. Feathers relate to birds, so it could be, oh, I'm going to get a message from someone. Maybe to get a lover, you put an ad on Grindr or Tinder or something. That might mean, oh, I'm going to get a message from someone. Someone's going to contact me, right? Okay, the next thing you want to look at is, what I do is, you want to look at the bottom of the candle and see how things, how it burnt down. Because what happens a lot of times is the herbs that you put in here will settle in the bottom of the candle, and they'll form patterns as well. And you could read these sort of like tea leaves. So if you look here, if I look this way, that looks like an L. But if I turn it this way, it looks like a 7. So you would take those symbols and interpret them. So in this case, okay, first of all, let's build up what we got so far. It burned down clean and clear, so there's a good clear path. It burnt all the way down because I feel like that's normal, what it burnt down here. There's a feather on the side, which means you can probably expect a message from someone. And then the L could represent the initial first or last of the person who you're going to meet. Or it could represent the place. Like I know the next town over, they have L Avenue, H Avenue, M Avenue. Because I remember one day I was looking for H Avenue and I passed Have Street several times before I find it. Anyway, that's don't have anything to do with this. L could be the person who introduces you to this person you're going to meet as well. So it will figure into your manifestation in some way. The 7 could mean that you're going to meet this person in 7 hours, 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, or 7 years. Again, you have to fill it out. Now, because this candle burns so well, I feel like 7 hours is a little too early, which 7 hours has already passed. So I feel like this would be 7 days or 7 weeks, and I feel closer to 7 days. That feels more right, since everything burnt so well. Now the other thing, and I meant to grab my iPad, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this. Let's see. I got to look at it myself before I try to show y'all. Okay, one thing I do is I'll take my phone and I'll put the lens for the photo right over this, and I'll take a picture of it because it helps you to see things better. Now I don't know if y'all are going to be able to see this or not, but my eyes are terrible. There, I think you can see it. See that little middle portion where the wick is? When I looked at that on the photo and I blew it up, it looked to me like an elephant with its trunk raised. I hope y'all can see that. Now, I posted this picture on Instagram, and I'm going to try and put a link to these pictures in the description for you so you can go and look at that picture, and you can like pinch it and make it look bigger. But what I see there is it looks like an elephant with its trunk up. Now, first of all, as you know, and having a little statue of an elephant with its trunk up pointing towards your front door brings luck to your door. So that little symbol can mean luck is coming to you. Luck is coming your way. Luck is with you. But also, the image, oh, that kind of looks like an elephant with its trunk up. So that image of the elephant with its trunk up is very phallic. And again, this was a candle, Kiss Me Now, for a loving good time. There are 2 men kissing on it, so it's for a man looking for a man. And so that image of the elephant with its trunk raised in the air is very phallic. So that's a very good sign or symbol. So you have all these very positive symbols here. Now, once you see these symbols, again, you're going to read them in relation to the purpose of the candle. And I'm going to give you some examples. Here are some examples that I often saw in the candles I burned for people. First of all, there was a fish. A lot of times I saw a fish in the candle. And what I do is, because I read the tarot, I read Lenormand, I read the bones, and I do astrology, I often draw from the symbology of these other forms of divination to help me interpret these symbols that I see in the candle. So if I saw a fish and let's say it was for money, well, I know in Lenormand the fish means business success, right? So I would regard that as a positive sign. If this was a protection candle, especially against the evil eye, it's well known that it's believed that people who are born under sign of Pisces or the fishes have a certain amount of immunity to the evil eye, because the evil eye is associated with dryness, and it's hard for a fish to be dry when it's underwater. If it's a love candle, I associate the fish with the Knight of Cups in the tarot, because if you look at the Rider-Waite deck, he has fish all over his armor. And so I might say that, if I saw the fish in terms of a love drawing candle, I might say that you're going to meet someone who is either a Pisces or they have a strong Pisces in their chart, meaning they have Pisces rising or it's the dominant sign in their chart, or they may be another sign, but that have the qualities of someone who has Pisces. So they may be someone who's romantic and dreamy or what have you. If it's a healing candle, a fish is really good because the fish is a symbol of Jesus, and Jesus is known as the healer. This little Jesus fish you see on people's bumper sticker. He's the Redeemer in the waters of life. He will heal you. So those are all positive symbols and how I might read it in relation to a candle. Another common um, symbol I often saw, it often appeared like a triangle with a little dot in it, and I interpreted that as the sort of eye in pyramid. And I often saw that in relation to any type of success or money drawing candles. Uh, and I see that as a good symbol because that's called the eye of providence. If you pull out a dollar bill, turn it over, you'll see that pyramid with the eye on it on your dollar bill. I associate that with money, so that's a good sign. Another symbol I often saw was sort of like a little rabbit, or sort of like the head with the ears popping up. And rabbit is a good symbol for love because, rabbits multiply. It's a symbol of growth and increase and drawing things to you. Um, so when you're done, you would take all these things and you would write up your candle report. You would blend them all together, balancing them against one another, and write up a candle burn report. For this one, I would say, if you were my customer, I would say it's a very good candle. Your candle burned down clean and clear. It didn't leave any scorch marks. It burnt within the certain the number of days I believed it would. The wax settled in, and herb settled into the bottom of the candle, and I could see an L and a 7, and I told you what I thought that means. And I can also see an elephant with its trunk raised, and I told you what that means. Now, the final thing that you can do is, I didn't always do this with every candle, but I did it probably more often than not. Is you can take these symbols that you've seen in your candle, and you can offer your customer or yourself a prescriptive rite based on these symbols to sort of follow up the work on their own. Because a lot of people will pay a root worker to burn a candle for them. I always felt like it was very important for when the candle was done for the person to do some type of a follow up for their self as either a way of gratitude or just completing the work. So with the fish, I'm going to use these 3 examples to tell you what I would tell people to do. With the fish, I would tell someone to get a little fish charm, like what goes on a charm bracelet or a necklace, and I would have them dress it with an appropriate oil. Let's say if it was for money, dress that fish with money drawing oil, and then they can wear that fish on a pendant or a bracelet. If they didn't feel like doing that, they could put that little fish symbol in a mojo bag, excuse me, with other money drawing orbs and sort of carry it. If they couldn't get a little fish charm, I would even tell people, draw a little fish on a piece of paper, as simple or as ornate as you can, depending on your ability to draw. And take that piece of paper with that fish on it and, turn it over, write your name on it, write what you want. I need $500. I want success in business. Dress 5-spot that picture of that fish with an oil, smoke it in incense, fold it towards you, put that in a mojo bag with your herbs. The eye in pyramid, what I would tell people to do to follow up with that is I would tell them to either get a green candle and draw a triangle on it with a dot in the center, and that represents your eye in pyramid. Dress it with an appropriate oil, light your candle, state your wish, and actually, this is more of a sacrifice. You're burning that candle as a sacrifice for gratitude for the blessings coming your way. They can also buy, there are candles out there that are in the shape of a pyramid and have the eye on it. And then for the rabbit, of course, if rabbit appeared in someone's candle, I'd probably tell them to get a rabbit's foot and carry that in their pocket as a good luck piece. You can dress the rabbit's foot with Van oil, or depending on what your specific goal is, some other oil. So that's some of the ways that I would have someone follow up the work on their own, because also I feel like yes, people often pay a root worker to do spells for them, but I feel like when they become a part of the process, when they do a little bit of follow up, it makes them feel more powerful. It makes them feel they're a part of the process and that the success is due to them as well, not just their reader or root worker. Um, so, in terms of our symbols here, um, there's a lot of different things you can do with the elephant. You can, like I said, draw a picture of the elephant with the trunk up, as ornate or simple as you can, and then do what I said with, writing your goal on it, create an emoji bag. Since it looks like a phallus, you can get you a regular red candle and write your goal on it, dress it with the oil, and burn it while saying your prayer. Or you can get an actual penis candle, but I feel like all candles are phallic, so it's up to you what you want to do. Um, and burn it to, follow up the work. Or, again, there's those little penis charms that you can buy. You can wear it on a chain around your neck, dress it with oil. You can dress it with your sexual fluids, or if you don't want to wear it on your person, you can put it in a little mojo bag with some appropriate herbs that you anoint with an appropriate oil, and carry it to sort of follow up the work that you want to do. Anyway, that's just a crash course on how I read candles. Your mileage may vary, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you were able to learn something, and I look forward to your comments about my video today. Tell me how you read your candles, or how has this video helped you. Anyway, have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time.